Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Brian on Grixis Phoenix versus Peter on Thassa's Lash. And we see Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, Force of Will, Daze, Chalice, a couple of islands. Solid opener there, but Thoughtseize is going to get rid of that Chalice of the Void, which can be a big problem for this Grixis Phoenix deck, which is kind of part control, grindy deck, but also has a bit of an explosive combo in Buried Alive with Arc-like Phoenix. That often is going to generate 9 hasty damage, essentially being on par with like Tinker Blightsteel. You know, you're getting your opponent out of there in 2 turns most of the time. Daze stops this Faithless Looting, a line that you don't see very often, but it looks like Brian's actually stuck on 1 land. Cabal Therapy takes the Jace, and now another island comes down for Peter. Cabal Therapy again. This one actually gets Force of Will pitching Thassa's Oracle. We got Lotus Petal into Narset, which is just an excellent reload here for Peter. That's going to deny cards like Faithless Looting big time, and actually finds a key combo piece in Thought Lash. Thoughtseize, however, actually grabs the Thassa's Oracle. I would have imagined it would have grabbed the Thought Lash, despite not being castable as of yet. And now Narset finds a Chalice, so card drawing seriously shut down. But Dark Confidant doesn't technically draw cards, and Peter will force pitching the last card in his hand, which gets dazed. Oh, brutal. Dark Confidant has arrived, and he can just undo everything here. It was kind of a disaster, and now this Dark Confidant can just start pulling Brian ahead. He can clear this Narset at any time. Right now he's just going for the throat. He'll clear the Narset when he's ready to play a spell that draws cards. Paradigm Shift. Gets dazed. Look. Oh, another Paradigm Shift. What a savage. Is this one going to resolve? And it's a pretty big graveyard. I mean, what is that, 8 cards? Narset's Devotion, very important now. Brian is going to want to keep an eye on that. He may actually want to clear the Narset in 4 turns. The Thassa's Oracle would become lethal, as Narset provides 2 blue along with the Oracle's double blue. Dark Ritual, another dead card. Looks like a Watery Grave. This pair of Dark Confidants really giving Brian some resources. Will he be able to leverage it into anything? 5 mana now, can hard cast Force of Will. Can potentially just ride this out. 2 ways of stopping that Faithless Looting. Oh, and then a Buried Alive. So this might actually do it. This is going to be 13 damage. And it looks like Peter is scooping it up. Either way, I'm not sure if that was actually lethal. If not, it was very close to being lethal. That was brutal finish to the game. And that's what the deck is capable of, is that explosive burst of damage. And Peter's going to definitely consult the sideboard and see what he can do against this Phoenix deck. It's got those control aspects, but it has that kind of soft combo, almost like a Tinker Blightsteel, where you're, kind of killing your opponent the next turn. The Phoenix does show up and do damage immediately, but then you can follow up with 9 the next turn. If that's all unimpeded, that's very often lethal. Just a force and a fetch will put you at 18. So it is definitely of note when your opponent's deck doesn't take any damage on its own. That's one of the things I think that makes Death and Taxes and Burn in some of the builds so interesting, is you got to do an honest 20 damage against it. When you're playing against Death and Taxes with Storm, sometimes it'll be like, I could do like 18. Like I could put you at 2 and then just die. So you really have to do the full 20. And Grixis Phoenix, I mean, those Dark Confidants, Lightning Bolts, they all help make sure that you can actually just have a Buried Alive and then they're dead the next turn. For Peter's side of the board, Thought Lash, definitely a card to keep an eye on, as it can do heavy, heavy lifting, preventing the damage, and of course being a key combo piece. I also really like the fact that it's great at removing dead cards from the top of your library. Cards like Ponder and Brainstorm do play well with it, though not in Peter's list, as he's on a Chalice build, so he's more about Impulse, and we'll see where he goes as he continues to test this. I believe there's probably not an optimal build of this as of yet. These A plus B combo decks, really interesting. I mean by that, decks like Alurin or Show and Tell, where you have 2 cards in hand to just connect these 2 cards to make your combo, as compared to a more complicated combo deck like Storm or Tess or Ant or any of those variants where your combo is playing a ton of mana, tutoring, drawing a ton of cards, recurring things, and eventually playing a Tendrils. Very different when you can just have like Nomad and Core and Cephalid Illusionist, just those 2 cards together, where they, on their own, nothing special, but when you get them together, it's a literal game win. Thoughtseize again for Brian. Excellent way to start the game. And actually going to force pitching Jace. Another Thoughtseize, and that's always backbreaking. When you make that Force of Will line, we've got Thoughtseize, Thought Lash, Thassa's Oracle, and Daze. And the Thassa's Oracle is taken. I'd imagine that the whole point of that line was to protect the Thought Lash. That was very interesting. Peter had 2 different cards that could win the game, the Jace or the Thassa's Oracle. Volcanic Island fetched, and another Thoughtseize. So much discard. We've got Daze paying the 1 and returning an island to Daze. Mercifully no counter back. However, we've got a Surgical Extraction, and it looks like that grabbed Thassa's Oracle. So Peter is going to need Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Did he just have 1 left in the deck? Is that what we just saw? I saw him pop 1 up. Looked like he was trying to count his win conditions. And it's pretty much just Jace or bust at this point. With the Thassa's Oracles out of the way, he's going to need that Planeswalker, which is pretty vulnerable. Mercifully, this Chalice at 1 is going to stop things like Red Elemental Blast from killing the Jace. Some spells being tossed into the bin by Brian. I'm not entirely sure what the line is there. We've got a Pyroblast, which Peter forces. Missing the Chalice trigger. Perhaps a little frazzled at the state of the game with those Thassa's Oracles exiled, but he's got a possibility here. He's going to need his Jace and his mana to cast it, or a way of getting rid of the graveyard and using this Shelldock Isle. There's the Thought Lash. So now he just needs the Jace. Phoenix is primed and ready in Brian's graveyard. Oh no. 1 card left? Looks like end step he actually uses it. And he did find the Jace, it looks like. I can't see it, but either that or it was a... Oh yeah, that looked like Jace. I was going to say either that or he just flipped up a card that kills him. which would be a weird line. Like, he still had outs. I don't think you need to go for meme plays when you could possibly top deck the win. So we are on to the next one. Game 3, Brian leads out with a Steam Vents. Lotus Petal into Shelldock Isle for Peter. Highly playable legacy card. You got Doomsday, you got the various Thassa's Lash builds. Card does some work. Faithless Looting for Brian. Considering his cards to discard, we've got a Phoenix, and I did not catch the other one. The Phoenix certainly going to be relevant. Plays very well with Cabal Therapy in this matchup. And if this Thought Lash sticks, it's going to be a very dangerous game state. Thassa's Lash makes great use of this card. Of course, it's a combo piece, but it's also going to totally nullify Brian's attack. There's no Chalice out, so Pyroblast can potentially get rid of this, but that's also not necessarily helpful, as sometimes the card just needs to show up and exile the entire library, though that's not the case this time. Peter doesn't have everything he needs. And he's got a Thassa's Oracle from hand. This has to be countered. Response, removing the entire library. We've got a Lightning Bolt. And that will do it. Absolutely brutal. 2-card combo. Ruthless efficiency as Peter takes that one down. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.